Hey guys, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Fred. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, MP3 player. That's audibletrial.com/Fred. But for now, enjoy the show. Welcome to the 2016 special blast. 7 days, 7 episodes, and 7 amazing authors. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for pushing the download button. I am Frédéric Bay. I'm talking to you. I am talking to you from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. You are listening to The Book Geek. The Book Geek Unchained. That's right, we're unchained here on The Book Geek. It's home to literary marvels. It's those you know and those you don't know. I am a guy. I am a dude. I am a geek. I'm a bookworm. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I'm a businessman. I don't know. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a white bread eater. I'm a wheat bread eater. I don't know. I'm just everything under the sun. This podcast is about fiction and nonfiction books that we love. Books change our lives. Books make us grow. Books entertain us. Basically, it is a live podcast. It is free every time you download it on iTunes or Stitcher. Please go over there, subscribe. It is listener supported. So tell a friend, leave a review from our podcast. Free gifts, articles, Q&As. Amazing stuff at FrédéricBay.com. That's Frederick by like bye-bye.com, on Twitter at byfred, on Facebook simply type in my name, Frédéric Bay, and check out the YouTube channel The Book Geek for previous episodes. All right, guys, to kick off the 2016 blast, as many of you know, I always like to start off with something funny. So here we go. A doctor at an insane asylum decided to take his patients to a baseball game. For weeks in advance, he coached his patients to respond to his commands. When the day of the game arrived, everything went quite well. As the national anthem started, the doctor yelled, "Up nuts!" and the patients complied by standing up. After the anthem, he yelled, "Down nuts!" and they all sat back down in their seats. After a home run was hit, the doctor yelled, "Cheer, nuts!" They all broke out into applause and cheered when the umpire made a particularly bad call against the star of the home team. The doctor yelled, "Boo, nuts!" and they all started booing and catcalling. Comfortable with the response, the doctor decided to go get a beer and a hot dog, leaving his assistant in charge. When he turned, there was a riot in progress. Finding his dizzied assistant, the doctor asked, "What in the world happened?" The assistant replied, "Well, everything was going fine until this guy walked by and yelled, 'Pea nuts.'" All right, guys. Hey, today we're going to kick off the 2016 blast with an amazing author. Last week we had Jennifer Skotelsky. Go check out this interview. It was just an amazing interview. What an amazing person. And this week, Monday, 2016 blast, we have Donna Mcdonald. And for the few who don't know who Donna Mcdonald is, she is an amazing author. She's an amazing, successful, acclaimed author with an amazing story. That's why we have her here. She is a romantic comedy guru. She's a dreamer. She's a closet geek. She likes to make your readers laugh. She has over 37 books under her belt. We're going to talk science fiction. We're going to talk romance. We're going to talk creation. We're going to talk the motivation behind her writing, what you can expect from her latest book. Eric 754, book 4 of Cyborgs, and more. You're going to get to know this person. You're going to get to know this amazing lady with an amazing story, and you cannot help but to be inspired by her genuineness and just her story, just who she is, not only as a writer, but as an individual. And if you are a reader who wants to be a writer, this is going to be a great interview. Other than that, hey, check it out. Inspiration, entertainment, information. This is what this place is about. So we're going to get to the conversation right after this. Hey guys, quick thanks to radioguestlist.com, where you can find people to interview for free. Or if you want to be interviewed, you can go there too. radioguestlist.com. Thank you guys for your support. And speaking of you listeners, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. If you would like to be on the show to discuss a book you have written or that you loved, if you have a book recommendation, or you just want to chat, email me. I want to hear from you at info@fredericbaye.com. That's info@fredericbaye.com. And for advertisement offers, use the same address with subject advertising. Hello. So we are here. This is the Book Geek Unchained. I'm Frederic Baye, and we are here with Donna Mcdonald. She is an acclaimed author with an amazing story. She's a romantic comedy guru, a dreamer, a closet geek, and she likes to make your readers laugh. How are you today, Donna?
I'm fine, Frederic. Thank you for inviting me here.
Awesome. Like I said, we're honored. All right, so you're gonna release your next book. It's called Eric 754. Book
Actually, 4? It just came out at Thanksgiving, so it's
that's
released
true.
Now.
That's true. So this is your latest book.
Yes.
Right before. So summarize the book for us, please.
Okay, well, this is book 4 of my Cyborgs Mankind Redefined series, which is basically what it says. It's about cybernetic soldiers who were converted to fight the last world war that finally brought peace to our planet, and about their adventures and misadventures.
And you see, this is what's fascinating with me, is that your genre is it's awesome. It's unique. It's robots, it's romance, it's science fiction. Where did the idea to write this kind of genre come to you? How did it come to you?
Well, I'm a Star Trek fan. I grew up watching Star Trek on TV. I never missed a program because I loved it. Also, Star Wars, Firefly. If it's science fiction, I like it. And in all of those shows, there was always romantic elements. So the science fiction blends very well with my romance writing background. Because I also write contemporary romantic comedies as well as the science fiction, which I know sounds like it's really far apart in genres, but it meets both sides of my brain. I'm a geek too, so I need all of that to be happy.
You know, it's fun because a lot of authors, I think, are afraid to kind of mix genres. You know, you do romantic comedy and you do sci-fi. You know, did you ever think about it?
Yes. I think about it every time I do marketing and have to advertise my books because I have two different audiences. I do have some crossovers, of course, but that number is not a career and will not keep me in food while I write the next book. So I have two audiences. I have 2 Facebook pages. I have 2 Twitter accounts. I now have split my email list into 2 so people don't have to hear about anything they don't want to. But that's working for me.
Yeah. But isn't it like double the work?
No, it's more like whatever it is I'm working on, I have to focus on that and do things for that. And then I move on to the next thing in my writing schedule.
Okay. So we're gonna dive into your writing habits, a little later. But right now, I did a little bit of research on you, and you have an amazing story. You have an amazing story. Tell us, how did writing ever come to you? Was it a passion that you had, as a youngster, and then you kind of grew up? I mean,
oh yes, I was a voracious reader. I used to read until, my mother, I was raised by a single mother. My mother would say, put down the book and go outside, because all I wanted to do was read. But as I grew up, then was writing was the next obvious thing. It's sort of like I wanted to do those things that I read, so I thought I could write stories also, and it never occurred to me that I couldn't. So when you're a child, you can believe you can do anything. And then I've had lots of writing careers actually, but never published my fiction until a few years ago. In fact, I'm getting ready shortly to start my 6th year as a published author.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because you published a lot of books. 27, if I'm not mistaken?
35 now.
Oh,
but
35.
If you don't follow both genres, you'll lose track, because yes, 35. I think that's what I have active across all the channels.
So what kind of kid were you? Okay, so you read a lot. But
yes.
Did you have a lot of friends? I mean, because
I did. I had neighbors, and I used to write scripts. Like, we would watch cartoons or TV shows, and I would script out things for us to act out. I thought that was a lot of fun. And so I would, of course, after writing it, I would give everybody what they were supposed to say, and I'd say, okay, now you say this, and now you say that, and you do this, and you do that, and it was just silly stuff. It was probably when I was like 10 or something.
And why did it take you so long to get published? Not to get published, but to publish something,
Well, during the 90s, I loved romance. I mean, I read everything. Don't get me wrong. I read dragon books. I read nonfiction. I read about Egyptology. I have a wide variety of interests. But I tried going the traditional route, and I was always too different for the mainstream. I wanted to, for example, my contemporary books, the reason I ended up becoming an independent author instead of a traditional author is that I wrote characters that were over 40. And there's just not that many romance novels about people over 40. And I write them explicitly, not over, they're not 50 Shades of Grey or anything like that, but they are still, they have some sexual content and language, and they are just like any other romance novel you might read, realistic, but they just concern people that were older and starting over in their lives. So I got a lot of soft rejections from traditional publishers, and they said, well, we love your work, but we can't sell it. And I just couldn't accept that as being my reality.
Wow, that's interesting, because unfortunately a lot of authors, their passion gets dampened. Like it sometimes rejection really sucks your passion away. Like,
I had 18 years as a technical writer. Translation, that means I wrote manuals for a living. And I did manuals specifically about putting printers and devices on networks. I don't think it gets any more geekier than that. And I did well at that career. So I worked with engineers all day long, and it was I got a lot of criticism, I guess, in that work. So when I finally got to my own writing for real this time around, working with editors or critique partners and getting criticism, not a problem, because I would rather hear it from 2 or 3 people than hear it from 1,000 readers on Amazon or iBooks or something. It's just I don't have a problem with that.
As as you were working as a technical writer, I'm sure it must somewhere in you must have had like that, these ideas that came to you to write on your own, but you didn't answer the intuitive nudge, if I can call it that way, or the intuition right away.
I wanted to, but I was a single parent myself at that point and raising 3 children who I had to put through college. And the technical work provided a method for me to do that, continue to financially take care of my children and see that they got education, which I did. And truthfully, I didn't leave Lexmark until after that was done. And my son was like freshman in college, I think, because by that point I thought I could do it in other ways. But that's why. I mean, you did I set my dreams aside? Well, I don't know that I would have followed through on them, because I worked on a computer all day long. When I came home, the last thing I wanted to do was look at a computer again. And I wasn't very good at handwriting. That hurt, I go get finger cramps and things. So I probably wouldn't have pursued it as much as I did. This, when it became, 5 years ago, it was a different situation for me. And writing was my solace. So, when I came back to it, it was with a vengeance, and it was like someone turned on a water faucet full blast and the books poured out and I went with it. So, and I think I think those kind of things sometimes they have their own timing in the universe,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we grew up with this perception, among writers, any endeavor as writing, singing, acting, where, it's unstable, which it is, I think. And, in many ways, I mean, you're in a better position to tell me, but, to say that, but it's amazing how the fear of lack of money and I mean, we put our dreams aside for, a long time sometimes.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yes, we do. And, many people I know, have a day job as well as write. And, they also have children, and I just have nothing but great admiration for those people, because that's devotion, to carve out time for it when it's very, very difficult to do so. Whereas, I am blessed that with the large body of work I have completed, and I'm not, I don't live in a house with a swimming pool by any means, or anything like that, but I make a modest enough living. It's as good as any day job I've had. So I'm making enough to pay my bills and keep going. And now and again, I have an extraordinary, year or release on a particular book. And, it's an ebb and flow, certainly. And the business side of it requires that you balance that, so that in lean times, when that book didn't take off the way you thought, or the market, has fallen for that particular theme or, genre, you have to be prepared for it to be less than successful. And keep the faith, I guess.
Yeah. All right, this is Frédéric Bay, and you're listening to the Book Geek Unchained. We are here with Donna Mcdonald. She's an acclaimed author, a romantic comedy guru, a dreamer, a closet geek, and she likes to make your readers laugh.
I do.
All right, so tell me, where did you find the inspiration for the character of Eric Anderson?
Well, my husband's a Marine, and I've been around military people a lot in my life. And so when I started writing the Cyborg stories, this Eric, making them Marine soldiers was easy for me. And so basically in the Marines, there's usually a small group of guys who work together on missions. They're called a fire team. And Eric is the youngest of his group. He was actually on the border of people they allowed to actually get cybernetic enhancements. So in one case, he's like chronologically the youngest, but in another way, he's got a level of, maturity and emotional, peace with the situation that the others didn't have, because, his cybernetic wiring was a bit different. And instead of the memories being pushed down and flushed away in his data storage, his were actually all kept. And so he never was able to get rid of any of the bad memories. And because of that, he's had to have a little more balanced approach to things. But how that's affected his personality is he's a little more easygoing than his friends are.
And what about Evelyn, 489?
Evelyn came to be in like book 2 or book 1 or 2. And basically, most of the soldiers that were converted in my story were male. But they did try to convert females, and it didn't take. But there are these 2 groups of females, and they don't know why it's failing. So they become experiments, essentially. And Evelyn is the captain of one of the 2 groups. And she saw her people hurting, and she kept volunteering to go in their place. So she has been experimented on to the end of what was possible without completely destroying a person. And so she is the most empathetic, sympathetic character I think I developed. She has a lot to overcome.
Okay. When you're writing, so you come up with these amazing characters. I mean, how does it come to you? Do you use any celebrities as, or people as visual inspiration for the characters? How tell us your creative process.
Okay. Mostly I have an idea about a situation, and then the people in that situation sort of start coming to life. So I write what I call a scene, which is sometimes it's a conversation. Sometimes it's it's a fight. In these particular books, it could be like an adventure scene where they're fighting or escaping something or getting involved in something they shouldn't, or a bad guy appears. But it evolves kind of organically, where I kind of live the story with my characters. I don't plot, which is something most people who write action adventure stories do.
When you say, can you elaborate for us, when you say you don't plot?
I literally don't plot. I go from scene to scene, and I have my muses to thank for the ability of my brain to kind of hold all that in place. And it's every scene I write is as much a surprise to me as it is to the reader who reads it, because I didn't know what was going to happen or what had to happen. Sometimes I vaguely have ideas about that, but mostly it evolves as the story evolves and the plot evolves, and I just kind of go with it. And then after I've written that first draft, I go back and fix anything that was what I call a loophole that shouldn't be there, or something that doesn't fit. That's my process for these particular books.
Isn't it fascinating, the creative process, how it's hard to describe?
It is. I have all kinds of words to talk about the stories, but none to try to explain to you what goes on inside my head, which is complex, and sometimes it's like voices talking. And people look at you funny, but I will be in a coffee shop writing and then start laughing because what I'm writing is making me laugh, and then people look at you strangely, and I'm like, sorry, I'm reading something funny. That's what I tell them, because I can't really say I'm writing something that I think is going to make you laugh later.
Do you write mostly at home in coffee shops?
I write everywhere I can. I write in the car when I'm waiting on, like if I'm traveling with my husband, he's doing something, I'll sit in the car and write while he goes to do his little errands or whatever. And, location isn't important. I'm not one of those ritualistic people who have to have everything lined up perfectly to sit down and write. I just have to get back in the heads of my characters to write. I'm very person-driven, character-driven when I'm writing.
All right, just before continuing this conversation, for you, the listeners of the Book Geek Unchained podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. I personally recommend the audiobook The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, or you can choose the audiobook of your choice for free by trying audible.com. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Fred. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Fred. You will be entertained, and at the same time, you will help a brother out. So, everybody wins. Go to audibletrial.com/Fred for your free audiobook. All right, let's go back to the book. Who is your favorite character from your book?
You know, you're supposed to say your hero and your heroine, and don't get me wrong, I love them. I do. I love all the people I create. I like them. But in this particular book, I got a very pleasant surprise. It was a serious book. She was a hard character. She'd been a hard character in the 3 books that preceded this one. Evelyn was, and everybody felt sorry for her, and everybody wanted her to have some justice. And Eric really wanted that for her, and so he's trying really hard, and it was so serious. There was no humor in this one. It was devoid almost of humor. And that worries me because I have humor in everything. Mm-hmm. So I thought, what I need, I had, in a previous book mentioned that these other women that she had been, most of the women had died in the process of the experimentation, but a few had escaped, and 2 of them that had escaped were her people. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to bring her people back. And then when I did, they were funny and they were outrageous. And then, I wanted to make them different to stand out against all the other cyborgs in the books. Mm. So I had them saying, well, we reprogrammed ourselves, you know. we figured out what we needed to do. We took the code. I don't know if this is my geeky side showing. Code. You run a piece of code and it has an action at the end of it that it produces. Mm. So imagine that in a person's mind, this piece of code says, at the end of this is the action you must do. And so what they did was, it's changed the detrimental action they were programmed with, and they put it to do something simple and innocuous, like giggle or something, so that at the end of their code, they're not doing the awful things they were programmed to do. But it took them 5 years to get this into place. But when they fixed it for themselves, they said, well, now we're going to go back and get their captain. And Evelyn's name is really Lucille Evelyn Pennington. And so Lucy is what they called her. So they were going to go back and release Lucy from her captor and reprogrammed her, because now they knew how to do it, they thought. So when they came into existence, though, Eric, of course, is trying to save her, but they're trying to save Lucy from Eric. And so now you get into a comedy situation where it gets all messed up because they just don't believe he's a good guy for a while. So.
Okay. What about your least favorite character?
I hate to write villains. We all hate.
Really? You hate to write villains?
Yeah, I know. Some people really like it. Well, they're bad. I mean, and I have to make them bad. I mean, they have to be bad. If they're not bad, the book is boring. So they have to be bad. But then I'm always like anxious for them to get what's coming to them. And so I'm always like on the edge going, now? Is it now? No, it's not now. It can't be now. You know? And so it's really hard to be fair to your bad guys. And I have to work at that. So I mean, isn't it like, aren't bad guys like I would think that bad guys are the funnest people, the most fun people to write about, because you can, you know, no? Yeah, they are. I guess, you know, you could say.
Depends on who the person is, I guess.
Yeah, yes, that might be true. For me, it's like, if you start liking them, then you're not going to want them to be the bad guy, and you're not going to want your hero to do anything bad to them. So you can't like them, really. I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah. No,
you have to. I mean, Darth Vader is Darth Vader, but I try to remember myself that he was also Anakin Skywalker at one point, right? I mean, that's the lesson there, is that it was a child who grew up without the proper amount of love and caring in his life, and he becomes Darth Vader. It's not instantaneous. He wasn't born Darth Vader necessarily. He was born a person with needs that never got met, or you could look at it, I guess, 1,000 different ways. But for me, I have to look at my villains and go, why are they like this? And you have to feel a tiny bit sorry for them, or I don't feel like I've done my job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. To be in that dark place, it's not fun. To be in there too long.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. For me, that's the uncomfortable part, is living in that dark space with that person, but it's necessary.
How much of the book is realistic?
I have a Pinterest board about the Cyborgs Mankind Redefined, and what's in that Pinterest board are realistic stories about current cybernetic developments, artificial eyes,
interesting
limbs.
Give us one. Sorry, I cut you off, but give us one interesting fact of that you saw.
Well, in book one, which I wrote, I think it was January of 2014 or 2015. I don't remember. Anyway, the very first book I wrote in this series, I think it was last year, actually. It was December, I think, of 2014. And I wrote about Peyton having had his real eyes replaced with cybernetic eyes. That's the first hero. And I just wrote it out of my imagination, I thought. And then it wasn't a few months later, I see an article, and it's about how they've developed artificial eyes, essentially, that they wire into your brain, your optic nerve, and they see. And not only do they see, they can see more than what our normal eyes can see. Because of course, why would you create normal eyes? Why wouldn't you create, always more, right? That's the way our society works. And I thought to myself, it's almost like I'm just a tiny bit in front of what's really happening, rather than this being futuristic, as my books were trying to make it like a few hundred years in the future.
Wow.
So it's really, those things I'm writing about, they're not science fiction as much as what people realize is more like science fact. I'm bringing up, though, as all science fiction to me is philosophy and theology and sociology and all those other things combined. It's an exercise in building a safe place to talk about those things. So what I've done is build a safe place to talk about biological enhancement and genetic manipulation and those sorts of things. I even have another series. It's about werewolves, where people genetically created werewolves. Oof. And that sounds...
Don't tell me that you saw it on Pinterest and you saw that it really exists, please.
Genetic manipulation is more and more happening than we realize, and it scares me, I guess. And so these books, these stories, are me working through how intimidating I find those things, and every book has a caution about because the whole point of my heroes, the whole point of the cyborgs, all of them, the heroes, the heroines in these stories, is humanity should triumph in the end, because we are human, and our humanity ought to be something we cherish, not something we think of as a flaw or something that needs to be improved upon.
I was going to ask you, what is the message of your, as artists? Most artists write because they want to say something, and maybe a lot of novelists, they write stories. Underneath the stories, there's always a message, a moral lesson they want to tell the world. What would be that?
I don't know that I write a message. I more create that thing that plays through my head when I read those things and I get concerned. So I create that for people and say, this is the story that runs through my head when I read about artificial implants, and I wonder about them. And you see, like, you read stories all the time about someone who's had a heart transplant and they say they have memories that they shouldn't have. And so I'm always asking the question about what is humanity? What's human versus artificial? And what's better or what is important? And my characters, I think, are working through that for themselves because you can't undo cybernetic enhancements. These guys had their legs cut off. They're not going to get real legs back. They're going to have these cybernetic limbs for the rest of their life. And so those are going to outlast their bodies. So they have to figure out how to live with what they've become, which is a part human, part machine. And it's a little more realistic than something like the Terminator. But that, I saw the Terminators originally, when it first came out, and I don't think it ever left my head because I thought, is that even possible? But then I read about artificial intelligence and the big leaps they make in that, and then I read about the singularity and there's a whole group of people who aspire to become one with machines so that they can, I think that it's an idea they have that they can save themselves that way or live forever that way. But then that's not what we were made to do necessarily. So, crazy. I have a lot of ideas about stuff like that.
It goes very far. It's interesting you mentioned you're trying to kind of make the difference between what's real and what's not real, in a way. And I really feel like with internet now, with a virtual world, because you say you're trying to distinct both, and I think it's harder to do that.
It is. It definitely is. Definitely is. We have social lives on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest that are not who we really are. We're still doing laundry and cooking dinner.
Absolutely.
But only our closest friends ever see that. But we have a whole life that is constructed, virtually constructed.
If you could change one thing about your novel, what would it be?
Well, with this one, it went longer than I anticipated because I had a lot of secondary characters came in and I had to resolve a lot of different things and lead up to the following book that's coming. And, but I had a deadline because, I had put it up for pre-order and Amazon is very fierce about that. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to wrap this up. And then I had to hire extra help to get it done and in good shape in time to go out. So to meet my deadlines. And I just wish I'd had a little bit longer because the story, sometimes the stories, they get bigger than what you anticipate when you start them. And I would have liked to have lingered with it a bit longer. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. What is the biggest myth about being a novelist?
That you're going to make a lot of money with the first thing you write, I think. A lot of people, what we read about in the media, what they hype the most is that one person out of, 100,000 that writes something that just travels rapidly and they make a big name with it. And that happens, certainly, but it's not what it means to be a writer. To be a writer, you have to love what you're doing. And I'm not saying you can't make money with it because it's all I do for a living. I'm making a living with it. But I expect every book to be as good or better than the book I wrote before this one. But I'm not, my goal isn't to put everything into one book. My goal is to please my readers, connect with my readers, and keep writing. And so I think you really have to be a realist about where you can go. And will my work hit big someday? Sure, it can happen. I have author friends who've had 8 books that did nothing, and then the 9th book went, like wildfire. That happens. You keep plugging away, I think you do hit it occasionally. But that's the myth, I think, is that you're going to write the first novel and that the whole world's going to fall in love with it. And I don't think that happens very often, and certainly not as often. But the people I see do hang their hopes on that happening to them too often.
A lot of readers, a lot of avid readers would like to be writers. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But, and you mentioned earlier you write everywhere. Do you have?
Hello?
I mean, hello? Do you hear me?
Oh, I lost the word. I lost you there for a minute. Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, you hear me? Okay, cool. So as I was saying, a lot of readers want to be writers, and do you have because you told me you would like to you told me that you write everywhere. Mm-hmm. Do you have a habit? Because you wrote a lot of books in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
Every writer has a style, a pacing that fits them, fits their work. And it depends on what I'm writing. I have days where I write 500 words a day and I'm lucky to get the 500 out. I have days where I write 3,000 to 5,000 words a day, which is my norm. And that, while it sounds like a lot, that's really just a couple of chapters for me. And I have days where I write 10,000. On those days, I don't shower and I barely eat because I'm writing so much that I can't get away from it to do, normal things as much as I'd like. But you can't live those days all the time, not without, dramatically affecting your health. You need a keeper if you're going to do stuff like that. So, you have to find what works for you and the pacing that works for you, and you have to keep yourself healthy while you're going with your creative urges.
Yeah, would you say to listen to your muse?
Oh yeah, if you don't, they'll stop showing up. And I've had that happen to me for a period of 6 months where I would go sit in front of my story and nothing came. And it happened, and I just had to keep showing up until the muses said, "Okay, you're finally going to work again? Great, we are too." There is this creativity. It becomes a habit, and the more you do it, the more you can do it. But you do have to keep it in balance so that you're mentally healthy and happy, and your kids are getting what they need, your husband's getting what he needs, or your friends aren't being neglected, your family knows you're alive. That sort of thing.
It's all about balance.
It's all about balance, yes. And I wrote more the first 2 years than I've written in the last 3 or 4 years, because the first 2 years, I think like I said, it was like someone turned on a faucet full force. I couldn't not write. It was like they were there and I had to write, and I wrote fast, and I didn't edit well during those days because it was the early days of the indie publishing, and I was just cranking them out there. Now I could not get by with the shabby writing I was doing back then. Readers are discerning and their expectations are high. And, as rightly so, that was just the beginning of getting to write the way you wanted.
What would you like to tell your readers?
What would I like to tell my readers? Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I, appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. When they write and tell me, I just laughed and laughed at this part in the book. That just is the highest compliment I could ever imagine getting. To hear awesome. A reader likes my work. It's just great.
Mm-hmm. All right. Where can we find you, and where can we buy your books?
You can buy my books anywhere. I'm at all channels, Amazon, iBooks, Nook, Kobo. I'm also at some lesser places, that sell directly, like Smashwords. I don't sell myself yet or anything. You can, in print books, my print books, I've just gone with Ingram this year. So my distribution on print books hasn't been very wide right now until, recently. So this year my books will be more available in print than they've been in the past. And I have audiobooks of 7 of my books. So I'm also at Audible.
Okay. All right. All right, Donna. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That was fun. I learned a lot, and hey, you know what? Good luck for your career, and congratulations on your career. I think you're living the life that, I mean, I speak to a lot of people. You're living the life that a lot of people would like to live.
Yeah. I know I'm lucky. I count my blessings every day. Every day.
But
I work hard. I continue to work hard. I write every day.
Yeah.
Well, I try to take a couple of days off, but I mean, I do write 5 or 6 days out of the week, and faithfully. I show up, I write.
So you write 5 out of 6 days?
At least, yeah. At least.
Yeah. And you mean not like all day?
No, but 4 to 6 hours. 4 to 6 hours.
Are you the type? Or do you like write during Christmas also, like, or is it?
I write when I get tired of everything else during holidays. Like if everybody's watching a movie and I'm not interested in the movie, I'll go write, for a little bit while they're watching the movie, that sort of thing. I try to be social, but just depends on what they're doing.
All right, guys, that's it. That's about it. This is it. This is it for the first day of the 2016 blast. How was that? How was Donna Mcdonald? How inspiring was she? How kind was she? I love these kinds of conversation. They are smooth, they are deep. And thank you again, Donna. Go pick her book up, Eric 754, book 4 of Cyborgs. And with this, catch me on Facebook, Frederick Bai. You can catch me on Twitter @ByFred. You can catch me on my YouTube channel. Go subscribe to Book Geek for previous episodes. If you love this podcast, support. That's how you support it. That's how you do it. And check out the blog FrederickBy.com. And with this, I want to say to you, stay safe and don't forget, live with purpose, passion, and love.